Hello, welcome to this tutorial. I'm going to be teaching you guys how to create an animated background wallpaper without an external source like Wallpaper Engine or anything else like that. So yeah, let's get into it. And for this project, we're going to be using Tinker as our overlay for our desktop, because setting the desktop manually with code just takes a long time for the windows to refresh and load in that next image, so the animation runs at like 10 frames per second. So instead, what we're going to do is create a Tinker window on top of our desktop layer, but would be behind our apps and our actual desktops. That way we could still right click it, we could click our files, we could click our exe files, stuff like that. First, what we want to do is get that layer that's behind our desktop things, but in front of our desktop background. So we do. So let's create that function. Okay, cool. So let me explain what we're doing real quick. So Progman is basically a thing within Windows that manages the desktop applications and icons on the screen. So what we're trying to do is find Progman, and then what we're gonna do is create a new layer in between those two things that we talked about earlier. And if it exists, we call it worker W, then we return true. And you'll see where this comes in later. So that function above was supposed to be a helper function. So what this function is supposed to do is get the layer of the window that we just created called worker W, and we're going to set that to the ktinker layer, and we're using ktinker to render the canvas or the images on. So we need to specify what layer those images go onto, because we don't want it to go in front, we want it to go in between those two layers. So that's what we're going to do now. So basically, if we do find the worker W, we set the parent of the window ID to the worker W. So that basically just sets where the ktinker will be rendered on. Now we're just instantiating our ktinker root, our canvas, and then what we're going to do for our images. And all we have to do next is just load in and render those images. Okay, cool. So now all we have to do is create a function that will render in our images. So what I've gone ahead and done is create a video frames folder, which consists of like, I don't know, 100 like BPM files. BPM is essentially the same thing as PNG, I think. I'm not sure. And all we have to do is just render one and then replace it with another one. And that's what the TK image is for, and that's why it's not at the beginning, because there is no image to render at first. So let's go ahead and create that function. So this basically just means it's 30 frames per second. You can change that however you want, because I think my video plays in 30 frames per second. Okay, and here is where we run our set as desktop command. So essentially, this is supposed to set the layer of our ktinker window inside of window W layer. So that way it stays where it should and doesn't like cover our desktop applications, but covers our desktop background. Okay, cool. So if you run it and then we minimize all of our applications in the background, we should see our animated background start to play. The frame rate for this video is not 30 frames, it should be like 50 frames per second. So you want to either decrease it if you want it to go faster, or increase the value if you want it to go slower. So in this case, I'll set it to 20, because that sounds like a good number. That should be like around like 40 to 50 FPS. And if I run it again, the background will be animating faster. So yeah, if you found this tutorial helpful, just let me know, I guess. Thank you for watching.